Do you know the dark side of Christmas? Before I get into this, I just want to take this moment to wish you all a very happy Christmas and a happy new year. I want to thank you all for all of your support that you've brought me this year. I couldn't have done any of this without you on the main channel and on this channel. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you and have an amazing Christmas. In 1997, coming back from visiting my grandparents, I remember seeing a strange figure crossing a very busy road. The closer we got, we realised that this figure was some sort of weird human. He had dark fur, he had horns on his head, and he was carrying a load of chains that were dragging behind him. Me and my grandparents stayed extremely silent and carried on driving. We didn't even discuss this terrifying figure that we had just seen. Other locals started reporting seeing the exact same figure, and the rumour was it that this figure was Krampus. So that was one terrifying sighting that I found online, and another one reads that me, my parents and my grandmother were driving to visit our grandfather's grave. This was late one night. We were driving down to the cemetery and we saw something absolutely terrifying. What we saw was a tall, scary creature that had dark fur, horns on his head, and was carrying a load of chains. We stopped the car in utter disbelief. We were all completely terrified with what we had just seen. It's no surprise that we did not visit our grandfather's grave that night. We started driving and we very quickly got home. We didn't actually ever discuss what it was we thought we saw until many years later, where we all agreed that what we saw looked very much like Krampus. Sightings like these two are reported and weirdly seen all over the world. Now, is this Krampus or is this some other demonic creature? So you may be asking, Lottie, who the hell is this Krampus that you were speaking about? So Krampus is a devilish-like creature who's got horns on his head, dark fur, fangs for teeth. He's said to have wild eyes, a long pointed tongue, and is always seen carrying a load of chains behind him. He is said to be a demonic creature that represents bringing in the dark night of winter. And in some parts of the world, he's also said to represent being able to survive the cold winter months. And he is also known to seek out naughty children, and what he apparently does with them is terrifying. He is known to capture these naughty children and either drag them back to hell or even take them to his lair and eat them. People believe that Krampus is meant to be Santa's evil brother, but from what I found online, that is not the case. His roots actually have nothing to do with Christmas, and apparently he dates back pre-Christianity to the pagan times. His name originates from Germany, which actually translates to claw. According to legend, he is the son of Hel, who is the Norse god of the underworld. But with the spread of Christianity, Krampus became associated with Christmas and with Santa Claus. While St. Nicholas represents the good in the world and rewarding good children with presents, Krampus represents the negativity in the world and actually punishes the naughty children. So it's kind of like the two sides of the dice. You've got the good and you've got the evil. And they're supposed to coexist together, representing the good and the bad of this festive season. In the 1800s, on December the 5th, it was common practice for someone to dress up as St. Nicholas, to visit houses in the area with a chained up Krampus following behind him, to represent how good always conquers evil and to remind people of the good and the bad of this season. And surprisingly, to this day, this does still go on in some European countries, but in 1932 in Austria, this parade was actually cancelled and it was banned because it was seen by the Christian church to be showing people the evil in the world. They actually said that it was a very unholy parade. But the tradition started up again because of the popularity of this legend. I just realised that my hat fell off. I don't know how long it's been gone for, but there you go. But still, in modern times, this festival and this parade is very popular and still goes on. But there's still people that are against it and do view it to be a very evil thing and something very unholy against God. So in 2013, while one of these parades were going on, 8 people who were dressed up as Krampus were actually attacked by these protesters, and 8 of these people ended up with broken bones and had to go to hospital. There was also another 60 people who were taking part in this parade that were attacked and were ended up in injuries because of these protests. And for me, that is wild. That in 2013, which, yes, I know was what was that, 11 years ago? That people would still protest so much about an ancient legend that they would actually harm people for taking part. To me, that is absolutely insane. In 2015, a movie came out called Krampus, and this really did introduce the legend of who this being is to the world. And I've got to say, I really enjoy this film and I watch it every single Christmas because who doesn't need a bit of horror even at Christmas time? But I've got to say, after watching that film, if I saw that evil spirit and his little minions running around the streets and my house, I would be terrified. But luckily, I'm always good as gold, so I'd never have to worry about that. And as well, there was a random thing that I did read online that apparently the only way to save yourself from Krampus is to feed him pieces of fruit. Now, I know that sounds wild. I had a little Google. I was like, right, how do you defeat Krampus? How do you get away from him? And apparently, this dude loves fruit. So if you offer him fruit, apparently he'll have a little snack, have a chin wag, and then he'll go. I didn't expect that either, I know. How to save yourself from an evil demonic creature of the underworld who hates naughty people at Christmas, give him an apple. You didn't hear it from me, it's on Google. So there's a few other interesting beliefs about Krampus flowing around online, and I thought it'd be interesting to share these different viewpoints with you. So we're not just talking about the typical viewpoint from modern history and from the movies today. So some people believe that Krampus is nothing but a made-up creature that was made up by the Christian church many, many moons ago in order to scare and control people. Apparently, this was the perfect way of scaring people into believing in God and doing as God says to be deemed as good citizens. When you have a quick look on the internet today, it will tell you, as I've already stated, that Krampus dates pre-Christianity and is a pagan god. It even says that Krampus is the son of Hel, the Norse god of the underworld. But if you do a little bit of digging, Hel is not a god of the underworld, but a goddess of the underworld. And there is no mention of this goddess having a son called Krampus. I did read a few interesting articles where people had looked into Old Norse gods and the children of them and whatnot, and apparently there's no evidence of this. So if you can find any evidence of that goddess having a son called Krampus, then let me know in the comments down below. It is believed that Krampus actually perfectly represents how the devil was portrayed in the Middle Ages. And it's interesting because in the Middle Ages, Christians always depicted They're saints, and next to them would be a devil or a demon to represent and to show how good conquers evil. Very similar to how still today St. Nicholas is seen dragging behind him Krampus to show how good conquers evil. And this part absolutely blew my brain. So I never knew this, but St. Nicholas, who we call today Santa Claus, is actually closely associated with demons. Because apparently he was a very known exorcist. Who knew? Mr. Santa Claus, who brings you your Christmas presents on Christmas morning, on his part-time is out there battling the demons and doing exorcisms. Never knew that. The earliest surviving account of St. Nicholas's life is the life of St. Nicholas of Myra, which was written between 814 and 842 AD, which is a very long time ago. And in this text, there is multiple stories written about how St. Nicholas conquered and defeated the demons. In these stories, these demons were continuously banished by St. Nicholas, but in the stories, these demons would continuously pop back up, trying to cause harm to the good work of St. Nicholas. Now, does that remind you of someone? Maybe Krampus? I don't know. And these stories became very, very popular in the Middle Ages, which happened to be the time where they started drawing and painting images of their so-called devil, which looks very similar to our Krampus that we all know and love today. And as well, in that old text, it says that St. Nicholas would bound the demons with chains. Interesting how Mr. Krampus today is seen carrying his chains. Is that another link? I don't know. Comment down below and let me know what you think of this theory. Could this be legit? Could this just be someone's way of trying to remove any magic from our life? I don't know. But it is interesting. And you've got to admit there is a few interesting links between what I've just said and the modern story. And I'm very interested though, if you could do some extra digging and you could actually find any history of this goddess having a son, which could be Krampus, let me know, because I'd be very interested in reading that. Another interesting belief is that Krampus actually originates from a Gaelic god. He was apparently the beast of wild places and of life and death. He was often known as the Horned One, the Horned God, who was celebrated and worshipped apparently by the witches. Some believe that early Christians took this horned god of the witches and twisted it into something sinister and evil, again as a way to fear early Christians into behaving into the way that they thought was the perfect way humans should act. And if that is the case, it's really sad that early Christians come across something that they just didn't understand and didn't recognise or know, and just instantly deemed it as evil and devilish, and then manipulated it into being this scary thing to try and manipulate people into behaving. If that is true, if Krampus does just originate from an old god, the horned god of wild places, life and death, and was then twisted into this evil being, then that's very, very sad. And remember, just because we don't understand something does not mean that it is evil in any way. And you're probably wondering, what do I believe about all of this? Now, I kind of have a few theories. I am a big believer in manifesting, and if Krampus did originate from an old god, I don't believe he came from a pagan god, which was the sun or from the god or the goddess of the underworld. I'm not sure about that part of the story, but I do very much believe that it could be something like the horned god of the wild of life and death that potentially was turned into some scary thing, because as we know, in the Middle Ages, they were terrified of anyone that stood outside of the box. You know, there was all of the witch trials and stuff, absolutely barbaric, that anyone with a different viewpoint, anyone that had beliefs, anyone that could heal people was deemed as evil, and that is very, very sad. So personally, I believe that it was just an old figure that people used to look up to, probably representing nature as well, and it was twisted into something and then twisted again, and then we've got today's story. But I mentioned manifestation, and I really believe that if you manifest and you really think and you believe about something, that potentially you could create something. I hope this is making any sense with my little ramble. What you've got to think is, if thousands of people are terrified of this being, they're putting that fear out into the universe. Now, has all of that fear that has been directed into one being potentially created something? I don't know. The reason I kind of go on about this is I do believe that, for instance, when people go into a haunted house and people are dabbling and saying, there's a demon here, there's this evil thing here, la 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 la, it can create a very negative energy within that place, or it can attract something else that can portray itself in that way. So maybe there is a demon floating around the world, who knows, that calls himself Krampus. Was he actually Krampus, the son of hell, the god or goddess of the underworld? I have no idea. But it's an interesting thing to think about. Let me know down below what you think about that theory. I don't know if I explained that very well at all, and if that even made any sense, who knows. So you tell me, what do you think about this story? Is there a real devilish demon with chains and horns wandering around the earth, kidnapping children, taking them to hell or his lair to eat them? You let me know, do you believe that? Or do you think this was just a fabricated lie made up to try and scare people into becoming the perfect good human? I'm very keen to know your views about the dark side of Christmas. But that is going to be the end of my little video about Krampus. I hope you've enjoyed it, and as I said at the start, I do very much wish you a very, very jolly Christmas. Enjoy the rest of your day. I hope you got some amazing gifts. I hope you're feeling loved today with your friends and your family. Eat lots of food, and don't forget to like this video, hit the subscribe button, drop a comment to wish me a very happy Christmas. Bye, have a good Christmas.